Everyone loves to talk about how Gen Z is the most anxious generation, addicted to their phones, can't focus for 5 minutes. You've heard it 100 times, probably from people who've never actually watched what the quiet ones are doing. Because underneath all the noise, the memes, the doom scrolling headlines, the constant Gen Z is failing narrative, there's a smaller, quieter group doing something completely different. They're not louder, they're not more talented, they just built a handful of habits early that most people don't figure out until their 30s, if ever. This isn't about productivity hacks or 5 a.m. wake up routines you'll abandon in a week. This is about the real, boring, repeatable habits that are quietly separating the Gen Z who are winning at life from the Gen Z who are drowning in the same feed everyone else is drowning in. Here are 7 of them, and by the end, you'll know exactly which ones you're already doing and which ones are the reason you feel stuck. The average person picks up their phone over 90 times a day. Most of those pickups aren't decisions, they're reflexes. Boredom hits for half a second, and the hand moves before the brain even registers what it's doing. The Gen Z who are actually winning noticed this pattern early, and they did something most people never do. They made their phone boring on purpose. Grayscale screens, deleted apps they don't need, notifications turned off for everything except actual humans trying to reach them. This isn't about hating technology. It's about refusing to let a device that was designed by teams of engineers to be addictive quietly run their entire nervous system. They understood something simple but uncomfortable. Every notification is a tiny bid for your attention, and every time you say yes to it, you're training your own brain to expect constant, cheap stimulation. So they built friction on purpose. Phone in another room during deep work, one home screen, not 5, a charger in the kitchen, not next to the bed. Small, boring changes, but the compounding effect over a year is enormous. While everyone else's attention span keeps shrinking, theirs stays intact because they refuse to let a screen decide how their day would feel. There's a specific kind of quiet that only exists in the first hour after waking up, before messages start arriving, before the algorithm starts feeding you other people's opinions, before the day has a chance to hand you someone else's agenda. Most people give that hour away immediately. Phone first, feed first, comparison first, before their own thoughts have even had a chance to form. And then they wonder why the whole day feels reactive instead of intentional. The ones quietly winning protect that hour like it's the most valuable resource they own, because it is. Not with some rigid, extreme morning routine, but with one simple rule: no input before output, journal before scrolling, walk before checking messages. Even 5 minutes of silence before the noise starts changes the entire tone of the day. It's not about waking up at 5 a.m., it's about owning the first hour instead of renting it out to whoever posted something at 7 a.m. Scroll through any day in my life video and you'll see the same pattern. A dozen half-started interests, a course bought and never finished, a hobby picked up for 2 weeks, a side hustle abandoned the moment it got hard. Nothing wrong with curiosity, but there's a difference between exploring and scattering. The Gen Z who are actually building something real learned to spot that difference early. They picked one skill: writing, coding, editing, a trade, a craft, and stayed with it long after the initial excitement wore off, straight through the boring middle part where most people quit. That boring middle is where almost everyone else gives up, which is exactly why staying in it is such an advantage. It's not talent that separates people at 25. It's who kept showing up during the 6 months where nothing felt like it was working. The habit isn't find your passion. The habit is protect your attention long enough for competence to actually build. A huge number of people in their 20s actively avoid looking at their bank account because the anxiety of not knowing feels safer than the discomfort of actually finding out. The ones quietly ahead did the opposite. At some point, usually after one uncomfortable moment, an overdraft, a maxed out card, a how do I even have negative money panic. They stopped avoiding it and started tracking it. Not obsessively, just honestly. A simple spreadsheet, a budgeting app, 10 minutes a week looking at where the money actually goes instead of where they assumed it went. This single habit does something psychological, not just financial. It removes the low-grade background anxiety of not knowing. Money stops being a source of dread and starts being a tool they actually understand how to use. And because they know their numbers, they make faster, calmer decisions about jobs, about spending, about risk, while everyone else is guessing and hoping. There's a version of hustle culture that convinced an entire generation that saying yes to everything is the same as being ambitious. Say yes to every gig, every favor, every extra shift, every group project nobody else wants to lead, until the burnout hits so hard it takes months to recover from. The ones who are actually winning learn to say no earlier and with less guilt. Not because they're lazy, usually the opposite. It's because they learned that energy is finite, and every yes to something that doesn't matter is a quiet no to something that does. This shows up in small, unglamorous ways. Turning down a night out to protect a project deadline, leaving a group chat that's mostly noise, saying I can't take this on right now without a 3-paragraph apology attached. It looks like less output from the outside. From the inside, it's the exact reason they have the energy left to do the few things that actually matter really well. One of the biggest myths still floating around is that struggling in silence is somehow admirable. That asking for help, whether it's therapy, a mentor, or just a blunt conversation with a friend, is a sign of weakness. The ones quietly ahead threw that idea out early. They noticed that the people who get stuck for years usually aren't the ones who lack ability. They're the ones who waited too long to say, I don't know what I'm doing, out loud. So they started asking earlier. A DM to someone a few years ahead of them. A therapy session before things got unbearable. A direct question instead of pretending they already understood. Asking for help early isn't a shortcut. It's a compounding advantage. Every problem solved a year earlier because someone was willing to ask is a year of momentum other people don't get back. This is the quiet one, the one that doesn't show up in any productivity app, but it might be the most important habit on this list. Most feeds are engineered to trigger comparison. Someone your age with more followers, more money, a better body, a better life, curated and posted at exactly the angle designed to make you feel behind. And most people absorb that comparison every single day without even noticing it's happening. The ones who are actually winning built a quiet, deliberate habit of turning that comparison inward instead. Not, am I doing better than them, but am I doing better than I was 6 months ago? That single shift changes everything, because external comparison is a game you can never actually win. There's always someone further ahead, curated to look even further ahead than they really are. Internal comparison is the only game where consistent effort always, eventually, produces a win. None of these 7 habits are exciting. None of them will trend. They're boring, repeatable, unglamorous things. Protect your attention, protect your mornings, protect your money, protect your energy, and measure yourself against your own timeline instead of everyone else's highlight reel. But that's exactly why they work. While one part of this generation is being pulled in 50 directions by algorithms designed to fragment their attention, a quieter part is building something real, one boring habit at a time. If you recognize 2 or 3 of these in yourself, you're already ahead of where you think you are. And if you recognize none of them yet, that's fine too. Every one of these habits started as a single, small decision made on an ordinary day by someone who decided they were done drowning in the same feed as everyone else.